Hey everybody, Kevin here from Invisible Insights, your high performance coach. And here's a little something for you for your performance edge. Now today I want to talk about zones. And I want to talk about two specifically. The tension between the comfort zone, the one we love and that we live in, and the one we fight for all the time, either, on purpose or by default in some which kind of weird way we do it, or the necessity zone. The necessity zone is the zone of necessity. It is the level that you go to that requires you to do things that are not comfortable, that take you out of your comfort zone. And the necessity zone, the zone of necessity, let's call it that, is a zone that only occurs when you put yourself in situations that are beyond yourself. And it's the process of you making some really tactical decisions about your leadership in your life that really ultimately say, hey, I'm going to stretch myself in this particular way. And there's lots of things that we tend to enter into that have a lot of unknowns attached to it. Sometimes it could be, a new role or the opportunity to stick yourself into a situation maybe where there is a gap. Perhaps maybe on the team in an organization, maybe, within the context of the family, where if you decide that you're going to step in, it's going to cost you something. And the cost that you're kind of navigating in your head isn't clearly defined. So you realize that once you start getting into that world, regardless of work or personal or whatever that is, you begin to start realizing those unknowns are going to translate into something that I'm going to be accountable for and responsible for, and ultimately, I'm going to have to make some changes. There's going to be a level of necessity that really is critical for there to be success in these things that I'm going to step into. Most of the time, most people don't. Most people just stay in the comfort zone, and I think this is the thing I bump into a lot of times. I think a lot of people seem dissatisfied, they're disgruntled, they're disengaged, all the disses that you can think. It's kind of that deconstructing all that, you begin to start realizing it's just because they're stuck. They will not exercise the opportunity that exists that requires necessity. And so my question for you is this. There's probably something that you probably should be sticking your nose into. There's probably something you should be leaning into. Maybe it's in the area of your health. Maybe it is making that decision to lean into maybe going in and not just joining a gym, but maybe hiring the trainer who's going to hold you accountable, who's going to teach you things about food and about exercise it's going to transform your life, but that you're going to have to now embrace what necessity requires. And it's necessity means I'm going to be there. Necessity means I'm going to take full responsibility for the things that are critical to this investment that I'm making or this thing that I'm doing or this decision I made. So it really comes as a part of that. Or maybe there's an area at work where, we just see a crack in the processes there. We see something that's just not exactly the way it should be. And you realize that your skill sets kind of match, but it's going to be another level of responsibility for you. But in that responsibility, even though they're not paying you for that specifically, on the other side of that lives an opportunity. And however, it's like making a promise and not keeping it. It's like, I do have my day job, and so I made this promise to do this thing, and so, I can't do it because I do my day job. But in a way, it's kind of a little shadow mission to stay, comfortable. But it felt good, and we got to hit a dopamine when we decided to go and be the guy to try to save the day and do this thing. The level of necessity requires you to be committed to that decision you've made and that promise you've kept. Perhaps maybe the zone of necessity requires you to go backwards before you go forwards. Maybe there are some things in your life that you need to get right before you start taking some big moves into some things you want to do in the future. And that level of necessity will require you. Maybe it's an apology you need to make. Maybe it's a phone call you need to have. Maybe it's a conversation that just needs to happen, and you've been avoiding it and haven't been wanting to do it. That is real life. Necessity is really the pathway to feeling alive, feeling that that idea of like there's something emerging or there's something growing, because I'm uncertain. I don't know. I know that I'll be accountable and responsible, but on the other side of that, there's this thing that it's kind of attractive, that if I just kind of work through this season, if I just get through this level of necessity, I'll grow. I'll be better. I will be, ridiculously free. I'll be leaning into my energy, my focus. All those things will bring purpose in a way that maybe I didn't have it before. So if you're out there, you're dissatisfied or disgruntled, disengaged, all those disses, guess what? You might be just too comfortable, and you might just like that world. Let's get out of that. Let's do that, because that's huge and visible to see. And it's huge and visible that could really impact what your trajectory looks like when it comes to pursuing the next level you. So, hey, like I always say, when you see the invisible, you become unstoppable. Stay after it, everybody. We'll see you next time.